There are moments in life when something seems to try to get our attention in a silent yet persistent way, a sense that there is more happening than what the eyes can see. Perhaps you've gone through seasons of confusion, loneliness, deep questions, or situations that seem to make no sense at all. Maybe you felt like you were being prepared for something greater, even without fully understanding what it was. But what if I told you that none of it was wasted? That all the loose pieces, all the difficult chapters, and all the closed doors were part of a greater purpose. Many people go through life believing that everything they face is merely coincidence or bad luck. But those who carry a stronger spiritual sensitivity begin to perceive that there is a pattern behind these experiences, that there is direction, that there is intention. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes this calling, even if you can't quite put it into words. Maybe you've felt that you don't belong in certain environments, that you see the world differently, that you carry a strength you can't always explain. Maybe you've been misunderstood by many, yet deeply recognized by heaven. This message is not for everyone. It finds only those whose hearts have already begun to awaken to their true identity. And if you are here reading this now, you are one of them. There is a truth you need to hear, one that has the power to realign your vision of your own journey. My name is George, and I am here to walk with you in this discovery. If this message touches your spirit, follow the channel to keep receiving words that build, strengthen, and reveal the purpose that God has written for you. Let's walk together. You have come this far because heaven decided that certain answers could no longer wait. For a long time, you carried doubts, intuitions, and restlessness that no one else seemed to understand. Even while trying to live your life normally, something inside you kept insisting that there was a hidden purpose behind every difficult stage you went through. Today, that truth finally begins to emerge. No matter how much you tried to fit in, your soul always knew there was something unique about your journey. You noticed signs that others ignored, felt changes before they happened, and sensed spiritual movements you couldn't put into words. That sensitivity was not weakness. It was calling. It was God preparing your heart to understand what He had reserved for this moment. You went through periods of silence that seemed endless. You thought God was distant, when in reality He was building within you the structure necessary to sustain the revelation that would come. If He had spoken earlier, perhaps you wouldn't have been mature enough to understand. Heaven waited until your spirit was strong enough to receive the full truth. The inner battles you faced were not random. Every tear, every conflict, every closed door was part of a discreet yet powerful training process. While you saw chaos, God saw preparation. While you saw loss, God saw deliverance. While you saw delay, God saw protection. Nothing escaped divine control, even when your vision seemed clouded. You have often asked yourself why you faced such intense battles, while people around you seem to follow easier paths. The reason is simple. Those who are chosen must be molded in depth. You were not created to live a superficial life. Your spirit has carried a higher purpose from the beginning, and that required processes that few around you could understand. Every time you felt you didn't belong in certain places, it was God whispering to your heart that your path would never be like everyone else's. He removed people, interrupted cycles, closed doors, and redirected steps, not to punish you, but to prevent you from holding on to spaces that could not sustain the greatness now being revealed in your life. The pain you avoided remembering was exactly what created space for the transformation God was preparing. Situations that seemed unfair, encounters that ended unexpectedly, and moments when everything collapsed all served to remove from you what limited your growth. Today, you begin to see that every breaking point had a greater reason. You went through storms, that left you exhausted, but even tired, you did not give up. In the midst of the chaos, your faith, even if small, remained alive. It was that spiritual resilience that confirmed to heaven that you were ready to advance. The enemy tried to attack you in many ways, but nothing could break what God had established over your life from the beginning. What once seemed like a set of disconnected events now begins to take shape within you. Slowly, you realize that every detail of your journey was aligned with something greater, far greater than you imagined. God did not waste a single thing you have lived. Every path, every fall, and every victory contributed to your spiritual awakening. Now, God decides to lift the veil and reveal what was once hidden. Your spirit is at the perfect point to understand the reason behind everything you've been through. What once looked like darkness was teaching. What looked like abandonment was care. What looked like confusion was progress. Heaven finally declares, you have been prepared, protected, and set apart. And now begins the truth that will transform your understanding of yourself. Chosen one, what is about to reach your heart is not a common word, nor a random reflection. This message is born from a profound spiritual movement, directed precisely at your soul. You did not come here by distraction or chance. You were called by God Himself. And when He calls, it is because heaven has decided to no longer hide something from you. For a long time, the spiritual realm has followed every prayer you whispered, every worry you carried silently, and every inner battle you fought while trying to appear strong on the outside. None of this went unnoticed. Today, the Father declares to your spirit that the time has come to reveal what was hidden, not just what comforts, but what repositions. What God is about to reveal will organize pieces of your story that once seemed disconnected. Situations you couldn't understand will finally make sense. Experiences that once felt unfair will start to be seen as necessary. What you once interpreted as delay, blockage, or confusion will now be revealed as preparation, because your spirit wasn't ready before, but it is now. This is a moment of spiritual clarity. God is opening a chapter that remained sealed, because you did not yet have the maturity to bear its revelation. There are truths that can only be received when the heart is stronger and the vision clearer. This message is one of those truths, and it comes at the exact time appointed by heaven. Prepare yourself to see what was being aligned while you thought nothing was happening. Prepare to realize that many of the pains you endured were not punishments, but transitions. God is not offering a soft or superficial message, but a revelation that exposes the root of the processes that have shaped your spirit in recent years. Heaven did not waste a single second of your story. Even in the moments when you thought you were walking alone, God saw your steps and watched over your emotions. Every tear that fell, every doubt that arose, and every attempt to keep going was recorded. And now He has decided that it is time to show you why. This revelation is not only about what you have lived through, it is about who you are. That's why your heart feels this restlessness you can't explain. It's your spirit recognizing the call. It's the confirmation that what you always sensed was true. God is not calling you to an emotion. He's calling you to a deeper understanding. Your spiritual sensitivity, often mistaken for weakness, has always been evidence that God marked you from the beginning. That's why situations that seem simple to others were profound to you. That's why certain environments drained you and some people exhausted you. You were not fragile. You were set apart. Your soul recognized spiritual movements that your eyes couldn't yet translate. And now God is pulling back the curtain that separated understanding from mystery. What you carried without being able to explain now begins to take form. Everything that once felt like random emotion now reveals itself as direction. Heaven wants you to understand. You were never lost. You were being guided. You were never ignored. You were being prepared. Today, God calls you to see your own story not through the eyes of exhaustion, but through the eyes of revelation. The calling you always felt now becomes clear. A new phase begins with this truth. Heaven never forgot you. It simply waited for the right time to reveal what will transform your vision of everything you've lived until now. You went through moments when you believed that God was distant, almost as if you had been left to your own fate. But now you can perceive that this feeling never meant abandonment. Those dark periods were the exact environment where God was shaping your resilience, your sensitivity, and your spiritual capacity. You were being trained without realizing it. The tears you shed were not signs of defeat, but seeds that sprouted in the soil of your faith. The silences that bothered you were profound lessons. The disappointments that wounded you were tools of refinement. All of it was building inner layers you would need to sustain what was being prepared for your future. Just like someone who learns to listen to their own breathing, when lost in the darkness, your spiritual sensitivity was being expanded exactly while you walked through deep valleys. It was there, in the absence of answers, that your perception began to grow. It was there that God taught you to distinguish between His voice and mere internal noise. You walked through deserts where nothing seemed to flourish, but God used each one of them to start a silent transformation. With every difficult night, your spiritual vision was being adjusted. With every frustration, your maturity expanded. With every prolonged wait, your faith became firmer. Nothing was wasted. Everything had divine intention. The losses you considered unfair were spiritual interventions. God removed from your life everything that would have prevented your progress. Friendships faded. Opportunities disappeared. Environments changed abruptly. But none of it was punishment. It was care. He saw what you didn't and protected you before harm arrived. In silence, God was building endurance. When you thought you couldn't bear it anymore, He was reinforcing your foundations. When you felt everything was falling apart, He was reorganizing your inner world. Every fragment of pain became part of the structure that now sustains you spiritually. You weren't being broken. You were being prepared. Just as Joseph didn't understand anything while he was in the pit and in prison, you too couldn't see the purpose while walking through your valleys. But God was there, turning chaos into a path, pain into strength, and confusion into wisdom. Your story was worked out with precision, even when your eyes saw no movement. Now you begin to understand that your hardest days were precisely those when God worked the most within you. It was in those times that your faith stopped being theory and became practice. It was there that you learned to trust, not in what you saw, but in what God spoke to your heart. It was there that your true strength was born. What you went through did not diminish you. It shaped you. It did not delay you. It equipped you. It did not destroy you. It prepared you to carry what is to come. Today, you can look back and see that the darkest stage of your life was, in fact, the training God used to reveal your true identity and purpose. And you have always wondered why the most important moments of your life seem to come with intense pressure. It felt as though everything got worse precisely when you decided to advance spiritually, emotionally, or even personally. What you didn't know is that this pressure was not an obstacle placed by God, but a clear sign that great change was about to manifest. Just as a seed faces the heaviest soil before breaking through into the light, you too went through suffocating seasons right before every spiritual breakthrough. It was as if the entire weight of life pressed against you, squeezing your strength. The feeling of heaviness was so real that, at times, you believed you wouldn't make it. But God always knew you would break through. Clay cannot become a sensitive and resilient vessel without first being pressed on all sides. In the same way, your soul had to be shaped in circumstances that felt overwhelming. The pressure wasn't a sign you were failing. It meant you were being structured to receive something much greater. You weren't being crushed, you were being perfected. Those confusing days when everything seemed to fall apart were no coincidence. They were the symptoms of a spiritual birth. Just as birth pains increase in intensity and frequency before delivery, your life began to show signs of an inevitable transition. God was about to cause something to emerge within you, something that required a deep internal breakthrough. That's why situations escalated so suddenly. People acted unexpectedly. Problems appeared without explanation, and emotions surfaced with strength. None of this came to destroy you. It came to push you out of the old version of yourself that could no longer contain what God had planned. You weren't collapsing. You were transforming. The enemy tried to use that pressure to make you believe you were going backward. He knew that if you interpreted the process as defeat, you would give up before experiencing what God was preparing. But even on the heaviest days, something inside you insisted on standing firm. That persistence wasn't human stubbornness. It was the Spirit lifting you up. And when God sees that you are on the verge of ascending, He allows old layers to break. Every breakthrough hurts. Every act of liberation brings discomfort. Every transition requires strength. But what seemed to be falling apart was, in reality, God making room for the new. Your heart felt the transformation before your eyes saw it. The pressure also served to reveal what needed to leave your life. Old beliefs, lingering fears, guilt you had carried for years, and patterns that imprisoned you all began to crumble under the weight of the process. It was God clearing your path, removing what would hinder your ascent. Nothing being taken away was truly part of your destiny. Now you understand. What you called chaos was heaven's push. The pressure was the prophetic sign that your ascension was near. God was taking you to higher places, and the discomfort was simply proof that you were being prepared for a new cycle. One that would require a stronger, steadier, and more aware version of yourself. There was a moment when the intensity of spiritual battles increased so suddenly that you couldn't understand where so much opposition was coming from. Everything seemed blocked, heavy, or confusing, as if something were trying to stop your progress. The truth is that the very instant you decided to grow, the spiritual world around you reacted immediately. When you said yes to healing, to purpose, and to alignment, heaven moved in your favor, and darkness reacted as well. The enemy never attacks those who are stagnant. He doesn't waste energy on those who don't threaten the territory he's trying to dominate. He only intensifies his attacks against those who have begun to awaken to their true identity. The reason you've endured so many battles is simple. You became a threat. Your decision to keep going, your choice to continue seeking God, and your courage to break patterns put your soul into spiritual motion. That triggered reactions. You stopped being harmless and became someone capable of transforming environments. The attacks you faced were not proofs of weakness. They were proofs of worth. The more you advanced in the unseen, the more the enemy tried to confuse you. He tried to drain your strength, plant doubts about who you are, manipulate your emotions, and even use people close to you to weaken you. That only happened because your potential was recognized in the spiritual realm before you could even see it yourself. Heaven never allowed these attacks to exceed the limits of divine protection. Even when you didn't notice, God was surrounding you, preventing the strategies of darkness from striking deep. You have no idea how many attacks were canceled before they even came close. You only felt the impact, not what was blocked. Your resistance bothered them. Your faith disturbed them. Your spiritual strength activated environments. You carried light in a place where many preferred darkness, and that caused discomfort. It wasn't about being loved or rejected. It was about what your presence activated. People felt uneasy because your light exposed shadows they didn't want to face. The enemy tried to manipulate your thoughts precisely to make you doubt yourself. He knew that if he could break your identity, he could break your progress. That's why he tried to strike your confidence, your worth, your faith, and your clarity. But God strengthened you silently, feeding your courage in the very moments when you thought you couldn't take it anymore. The truth is, you remained standing, even when everything seemed determined to knock you down. That alone proves how much you're protected by God. If it were by human strength, you would have fallen long ago. But something sustained you beyond your understanding. That invisible strength was proof that God chose and constantly protects you. The attacks were not signs that God was distant. They were signs that you were on the right path. The more you advanced spiritually, the more opposition arose. That happened because your light grew, your impact increased, and your spiritual presence started breaking structures that once held you captive without your awareness. Now, looking back, you realize that you survived things that would have destroyed others. That's not to your credit. It's grace, it's purpose, it's divine protection. You endured because you were never alone. The spiritual warfare intensified because you were ascending, and nothing, absolutely nothing, could stop what God wrote for your life. God wants you to understand something essential about everything that didn't happen the way you expected. The doors that didn't open were not failures, nor delayed answers, nor proof that you weren't worthy. Every opportunity that slipped away, every relationship that ended, and every path that was interrupted were carefully filtered by heaven. You were not rejected. You were protected. There were doors that would have diminished your worth, connections that would have drained your essence, and choices that would have dimmed your identity. That's why God had to intervene before you entered places that couldn't sustain the greatness He was shaping in you. What you perceived as loss, heaven saw as deliverance. What seemed like delay was actually redirection. So you wouldn't waste energy where you wouldn't bloom. God blocked access not to make your journey harder, but because He saw dangers you couldn't yet see. The Father doesn't allow a chosen one to settle in environments that are not aligned with purpose. And so, He closed doors firmly, even when you wanted them to stay open. Every no from God prevented harm that would only have been understood later, and now He reveals, you are not the version that pain tried to create. You are not defined by failures, losses, or past scars. Everything that tried to break you became building material for your true identity. God says that the wounded, tired, and insecure version of you is not who you are. It was only a necessary phase to reveal your real strength. Heaven has always seen beyond what you lived. God saw the potential hidden within your pain, the maturity that would arise from your breaking, and the wisdom that would be born from your hardest experiences. Now you begin to emerge as the person He always knew you would be, a more conscious, steady, refined, and spiritually awakened version of yourself. Every battle developed discernment. Every loss expanded your clarity. Every confrontation refined your essence. What once appeared to be mere suffering now shows that it was shaping abilities you could never have developed in easier settings. Heaven declares that you are now ready to carry what once would have broken you. Today, you can bear what once crushed you. Today, you can see what once confused you. Today, you recognize yourself as someone set apart, chosen, and prepared to live out an identity not defined by trauma, but by purpose. God doesn't see you through what you've suffered. He sees you through what you're becoming. And that revelation changes everything. As we come to the end of this message, I want you to understand something deeply. Nothing you have lived was wasted. Every phase, every breaking point, every closed door, and every silent transformation was preparing your spirit for this moment. God has guided you with precision, shaped your identity with care, and now positions you to walk with more clarity, strength, and purpose than ever before. This is not just a conclusion. It is a new beginning, a turning point. The confirmation that heaven has always been working in your favor, even when you couldn't see anything happening. Now that you understand what was behind the process, move forward with confidence. Your identity is realigned, your purpose is awakening, and your future is secure in God's hands. May this word continue to speak to you in the coming days and strengthen your heart in every area. And before closing, I want to ask something important. Comment something that this message has awakened in your heart. It can be a word, a feeling, a revelation, whatever you wish. Your interaction is not just engagement. It is a testimony of what God is doing in you. Let's keep walking together.